Hi, I'm Shirley Dalton, and it's been my pleasure to be chatting with Prosper Taruvinga on the Online Prosperity Show. If you listen in, what you're going to find out if you're a business owner is how to reclaim your freedom, how to get the time and money freedom that you want. Most entrepreneurs don't go into business to give themselves a job. That's what they end up with, though. What you'll find is how systems will set you free, how, as a great leader, you'll be able to lead your team and be able to delegate and have your team do much of the work, and you'll be freed up then to be the visionary, to be able to rely on your second in charge and, of course, create the business and the lifestyle that you want.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have a phenomenal guest who is about to get us all Shirley-fied. Now, Shirley, how are you doing today?
Really well. Thanks, Prosper. I'm excited to be here.
Fantastic. I told you I couldn't wait to say we're going to get Shirley-fied, and I stuck that in. Now, for those that don't understand what being Shirley-fied is, let me release that tension. Now, Shirley is a leadership and business coach who's based in the New South Wales, and she's on a mission to help business owners reclaim their freedom, get their lives back, and create their ideal business lifestyle and create a business that's profitable and enjoyable. Now, Shirley, I could go on and on about your accolades and everything else that comes along with it. It defies the whole purpose of having you on the show. Tell us a little bit about what led you to become a leadership and business coach.
Yes, it just happened by accident. I was actually working for an Australian international franchise organisation, and a friend of mine is a HR lawyer, and she was concerned about being audited, and she asked me if I would come and document her procedures. And in the process of doing that, asking her questions, we got her an extra day a month in time. And I'm so nosy, Prosper, that I just loved it, like going into a business and finding out what they do and how they do it. And so I went and asked my boss for part-time. I thought I'd like to do this for myself part-time. And within 3 weeks, I went from full-time, six-figure income to no time. So I found myself in business with no capital, no plan, and no clue. And that was 17 years ago.
Fantastic. And obviously, when stories like this pop up, you just think, wait a minute, pinch me, let me hear it again, because the odds of you having a friend who needed you to help them at that particular time and then creating that aha moment, wait a minute, we could actually save a day in our work. That's remarkable. And that's what you're doing for other people right now, giving them their lives back, so to speak.
Yes. And, I wasn't trained in this. This was just by asking questions and putting things into place for her. I'll give you an example. So she would make an appointment to go with her client and get the details to make an employment contract. And then when she would go back to the office, she would put that aside and think, oh, I'll do that later. I'll do that later. And of course, then weeks would go and she hadn't done that. And then the client would be ringing her up, hey, where's that employment contract? So just little things like adding an extra hour, hour and a half at the end of her booked in appointment, so that then when she went back to the office, she had that time scheduled in, she got it done. And then that was straight out to the clients. So there were little things like that that we just tweaked a little bit. People talk about systems. We weren't talking about automation. We were just talking about refining the way that we do things and refining it according to the way that she liked to work.
I can imagine, when there's a lot of paperwork around, and if you don't have a set procedure that if this, then that, then obviously you're going to spend a lot of time trying to find that paperwork or trying to find what the next step would be and things of that nature. And all you just did was put it all together into some sort of automation. And it started working for them. I once read somewhere, Shirley, where it says that systems is basically an acronym that says save yourself stress, time, energy, and money. Could you maybe comment on that? Because that's exactly what it is that you're helping people with now.
Yes, yes. And the business has evolved over time. I started with systems, but certainly what that means is that if you think about filing, nobody likes to file, but we file because it's for the ease of retrieval. And so if you've got a system in place, then it actually gives you choice. And another example is, say I've got a yacht and I say to you, hey, Prosper, would you like to come out on my yacht? The first thing you're going to look at is your calendar. Have you got the time? Then you'll start to think about your wardrobe. What will I wear on the yacht? Are my shorts clean? Have I got the right shoes? So if you've got these things already done, then you could certainly say, yeah, sure, of course, I'd love to come. And that's what systems do for you. They save you that time, effort, money, and stress, because you've taken a little bit of time to set everything up so that you can actually be spontaneous. You can actually find things. Things just happen smoothly. And in fact, one client that I worked with, they import kitchens from China. And when I first consulted with them, they said, Shirl, what are we getting? And it was a really difficult question to answer. He said, am I going to get a great big manual? And I said, not really. And he said, well, if you walk around our showroom, you can see there's a $5,000 kitchen, there's a $20,000 kitchen. You can see what you're going to get. He said, with what you're offering, I can't see it. And I said, yeah, I understand that. Things will run better for you. You'll know where things are. Well, at the end of the consultancy, he called me in and he said, I want you to come in and listen to this. And I didn't know what I was listening for. And I said, what is it? What am I supposed to be hearing? And he said, hear that? And I still no clue. And he goes, it hums. The business just hums. Now, how do you put that in a manual and say, this is what you're going to get? Yeah.
Wow. You see, I'm loving all of this. And thank you so much for that offer for me to come onto your yacht. I mean, for those that are watching this show right now, you can now officially know that, yes, have friends in high places and that can take me, and I just get my systems in order, to make sure I have the shorts, the boat shorts, and the boat shoes, and everything else that comes along with it. Now, I like this example that you've given us of this manufacturing business, because as we entrepreneurs are going into business, half of the time we are the people that are doing the work, delivering the product, and actually showing up for our clients. And we then want to bring on help or people that can help us. And if we don't have the proper strategies or documents, it then creates that pain that happens between employer and employee. Now, tell us a little bit about who you specifically work with when you're coaching, and what sort of businesses are there, because you've just mentioned the manufacturing business there, just so that we're clear on the type of businesses that have now enabled you to buy a yacht.
Yes. The businesses that I work with are predominantly small business owners. And exactly what you just said then, Prosper, is that, and I love the work by Michael Gerber with the E-Myth, where we start out as the technician or the doer, and we're really good at that. And I like the analogy of, say, being a surfboard maker. And the entrepreneurial myth is, I don't want to work for the idiot boss anymore, so now I'm going to go and start my own business. And I make these fabulous surfboards, and then the business grows and people want them. So then I have to put on a team to be able to make enough surfboards. Now I've gone from being the doer, the technician, to becoming the leader and the manager. And research shows, Prosper, that most leaders are in their leadership or position for over 10 years before they get any formal training. So here we are, we've got the business owner, they've started, they're the technician, now they're running a team, but they don't know how to recruit, they don't know how to lead, manage, communicate, hold them accountable, train them. And then eventually they get to the understanding of the role of the business owner, where they're working on the business rather than in it. So I help my clients to sort of navigate that journey, to understand, I'm a really good surfboard maker, but now I've actually got to lead and manage people. I've got to have systems in place so that they're doing it the way that I want it done, the way that our customers want it done. And then how do I have that conversation with them when they don't do it? So most of us, I've seen those horrendous examples where somebody gets thrown something at or yelled at. That doesn't wash these days. So yeah, that's who I work with.
Well, these days you just get canceled. That's all you get, you know? And the cancel culture and cancel committees walking around with their clipboards ready for their next victim right there. But I like what you've brought about here, especially bringing in the whole e-myth setup, where I think it's in his book or a book along the lines that says a business is a profitable enterprise that works without the owner. You know what I mean? So many people, yes, like you said, they go out looking to work for themselves, but they end up working for the most difficult boss. And half of the time, they're not even getting paid minimum wage just because they haven't got their systems in place. Maybe you've talked about a business that is humming. Tell us about, some of those that you're like, you know what? You could have come to me 4 years ago, things wouldn't have gone to the to where they are right now. I'm guessing there's a lot of horror stories, and if there's any of those, we literally can go to Hollywood and start a reality show, because I think there's so many businesses that need systems in place for them to start humming, like you say.
Yes, and I'll give you an example. I was coaching with one of my clients, and they have a surveying company, and he kept looking at his watch, and he said, "I've got to go." And I said, "What do you mean you've got to go? Like, we've still got coaching time." He said, "No, I've got to go. I've got to go and buy a car." And I said, "What? You've got to go and buy a car?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "What, for the business?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Hang on, sit down. Let's just take 5 to 10 minutes." And I have this huge whiteboard, which I love. And so we started to write. And I said, "Do you know what brand it is that you want?" "Yes." "Do you have a budget?" "Yes." "Do you have sign writing you want?" "Yes." "Do you know what that is?" "Yes." "Do you know what the options are that you want on the vehicle?" "Yes." "You know who you want to buy it from?" "Yes." Okay, so we wrote all of these things down, and I said, now you've got a system. Now you've got your policy for buying cars. How about you now learn this D word called delegate, and you go and give that to somebody else in your organization? And he was as nervous as anything, because, only he could do it. And really, all he had to do was to sign the check at the end of the day, or these days, just approve the transfer. Anyway, he gave this job to somebody, and that person was so enthusiastic about it that they actually got a $3,000 better deal than what he thought he was going to get. And they took that on, and now they've got this person who is responsible for purchasing the cars. And now the client's got time back. He can think about the business, and all he does is sign the check.
Now that explains the yacht, because if you're saving people $3,000 at a whim like that in 5 minutes, can you imagine what it is that you've been doing in the last 17 years?
Yeah, yeah. And it's just finding out what people want. One of my other clients was not a finance broker, but he was in the finance business, and he helped people with their shares. And anyway, we were able to help him double his practice from 1.5 million to 3 million without adding any more time or any more people. And you think, how did you do that? By listening to his customers. His customers said, "We don't want an hour's appointment. We want 15 to 30 minutes. We want to know, how are our shares going? What should we sell? What should we buy? What's our strategy? Have an update," and that's it. So overnight, we've gone from however many 1-hour appointments he had, he could now double that to so many 30-minute appointments. Like, it's not rocket science, Prosper.
Even though you say it's not rocket science, but I think there's a whole different mindset shift that needs to happen. And I think you nailed it on the head when you said so many business people only get leadership training after the 10-year mark. And maybe that explains why so many businesses don't go past the 3-year mark, and it's a we dodged the bullet at 5, and then at 10 they're now really looking at sustainability and things like that. So there's some sort of an importance for a mindset shift, because if somebody has been doing things, it's always been like this around here, and that's how people have been going by. And I think it will not be an easy shift. Now, how do you help your clients to then develop this mindset that fosters success overall?
Yeah, well, the first thing is by not making them wrong. So they don't know what they don't know. So it's really a case of education. And then if I'm doing a systems work, then what I start out with is capturing what they do in a workflow diagram. And this is part of my 5 steps to systemize your business. But the first thing is what happens, by whom, and by that we mean the role, when, as in this comes before this comes before this. And for every what, which is a task, you actually need the how, which is the procedures. And procedures don't have to be written in a great big book that nobody reads. Procedures need to be fit for the purpose. So if you've got a company that has got a lot of non-English speaking people, then you're going to have pictures and have diagrams. And so that's where we start, and we look at what's currently happening, and then we look at how people like to work. So I might ask you, like, you need this information. When do you need it? I need it on Wednesday. I talk to the other person who's going to give you the information and say, well, could you get it to him on Wednesday? Yep, I could. Didn't know he needed it that many days in advance. What's the best method? And you might say, well, look, I'd really like an email. And the person goes, oh, can we do it a different way? Can we have a form? And so I'm actually acting as a facilitator. I'm not coming in and telling you, right, Prosper, this is how you've got to run your business, because what do I know? I don't know anything about your particular expertise, but I facilitate those processes. And then as we start to get that in place, then people start to understand the mindset and the training for the leadership. So we created the Blueprint for Business Freedom, which is people, process, and possibility. So it was interesting that that's how my business evolved. I started out doing systems work, and then what I found is that once I'd finished the project, the systems would fall over, and I'll be like, scratch my head, how come? And that's because then I realized the owners didn't know how to lead and manage their people. So I started coaching them, then started putting on more people in a leadership experience, did more training for myself. So that brought in the people side of things. And then as I trained more for the mindset side of things, then that brought in possibilities, which is about, well, what are your goals? And then what's stopping you, which is, these horrible limiting beliefs and things that we've got, the things like the imposter syndrome, who am I? So they're the things that stop us. So that's how it sort of evolved over time. And then as I learn more and then teach that to my clients, they learn more and then implement and get better results.
So from what I'm understanding, you're like the Elon Musk of systems, and really getting people to understand that, because you would have created the Tesla for them, but you realize, wait a minute, these people can't drive it. And then you then put them in the driver's seat and teach them how to drive. Now they can drive their Tesla, they can go wherever they're going, and they tell their story in a unified way, which basically gives them back their lifestyle, their business, and everything else that comes along with it.
Yes, and what I find too is that they put a few passengers in the Tesla so that the passengers can learn how to drive as well. So that frees them up. And then we've got redundancy if somebody's off sick or on holidays. And so a lot of my clients, they also now start sending their next level of management to get the leadership training, so that then, as one of my clients said, it just freed him up because he doesn't get involved in operational things now or the HR side of things, because his leaders are now empowered and learning how to be better leaders.
That part, of having the shared vision and goals, and why that is important, especially in the business sense. When leaders are telling their staff or subordinates where they're headed, because sometimes leaders might have an idea of where they want to take the business, but not everybody else is on board.
Yes, and leaders are traditionally very visionary, and particularly entrepreneurs. They can see things that we can't see. And I love the analogy by Simon Sinek, and he talks about it like an iceberg. And he said, when it's like a little grain of ice underneath the water, the visionary says, "Oh, see that?" And somebody's looking, they go, "I can't see anything." And then it grows a little bit more. "Can't you see this? Look at this." No. And then eventually it starts to poke its head out of the water. "Oh, I can sort of see it." And then it gets bigger and bigger, and they go, "Oh, now I see it." Well, the visionaries actually need somebody, which I call the loyal lieutenant, to actually interpret that, see the vision that the visionary sees, because the visionary isn't the best person to implement. They need the 2IC to come and implement that. So we've got to get people on board. First of all, we've got the vision, then we've got to get somebody who understands the vision and then who can speak the language of the people who've actually got to implement it. But we do need a vision, and people do need to be on board with it. Otherwise, it's just a job.
Absolutely. You see, Shirley, when I was when I was growing up, they always told me you can't climb the ladder of success with your hands full. So as an entrepreneur, there's so much that we're dealing with on our day-to-day basis. And I quite like what you framed it as, the loyal lieutenant. Now, you've written a book and there's a masterclass that goes along with that sort of statement. Just walk us through what that entails and yeah.
Yeah. Yes. So with the book, and it's only a little read, it's only 90 pages. You could do it in an hour and a half. But so many people ask me what was the system that I used. And so I put that in the book. So this is the system that I use when I go and do a consulting job. So people know exactly how it's going to work and they could do it for themselves. But more importantly, I wrote it because I've got a lot of the clients. Remember, I said that the leaders then send their 2ICs, their next level of leadership. Well, a lot of those people don't see themselves as leaders, and they're very lacking in confidence, and they don't get the value that they bring. And so I wrote this to show them, hey, you really are a valuable person within the organisation. And in one of our last online loyal lieutenant classes, which go for about 9 weeks, at the end of it, one of the ladies was saying what she got out of it, and she was tearing up and quite emotional. And she works in a finance broking firm. And she said, I've been in this firm for 20 odd years and I didn't see any value. She said, because I don't bring in the money, I'm not the broker, I'm not selling the finance. I just thought I was in the back end. And she said, now I really get, gosh, they can't really do much without me and my team. And that for me was like, like she started to really get the value that she brings.
Seth Godin talks about linchpins, right? There's all these flamboyant people out there doing all the sales, high-fiving each other and everything else, but there's always those people behind the scenes that are making everything happen, doing all the due diligence, the paperwork and everything else behind the scenes. Those are the kind of people you're talking about, the loyal lieutenants, right?
Yes, yes. And before I started my business, I was the chief operating officer for Kip McGrath Education Centres. And Kip and his wife, Dugnia, went over to China. And I didn't really know why. And when they came back, this was in the April, and they said, the Chinese will be here in July. And I went, okay, that's nice. What are they coming for? And he said, the Chinese maths program. I said, what Chinese maths program? We haven't got a Chinese maths program. He said, that's right, get going. And so
just like that.
Yep. And we were literally printing this out as the people were walking up the stairs to the director's room to have their meeting about, here's the Chinese maths program. Now, there's an entrepreneur, and then they need somebody in that 2IC role to make it happen.
Well, to all 2ICs out there, thank you for your service, because a lot of entrepreneurs wouldn't be able to even wake up or open the door if all the systems and processes were not in place. Now, for somebody who's watching right now, Shirley, and they are already getting Shirley-fied or contemplating reaching out to you, what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, I've got a contact form, an AHA session on my website. So if they just go to shirleydalton.com/AHA, AHA.
I like that, because when you're talking, you get all these aha moments that you're going to be like, you know what? We've been wasting time, money, and effort not doing things the way that they're supposed to be. But there's always another way to do things. And you were showing us your book,
The book, yes, the Loyal Lieutenant, yes. So that's also available on the website, shirleydalton.com/books. And the reason it's got an S on it is because I plan to write many more.
Right. Okay. I like that. I like that. And what will be the next in the series, or is that a secret?
No, it's not a secret. No, it'll be about leadership. And, I often felt like I was an imposter around leadership and leadership coaching. But what I'm finding is that we all have our own style, our own flair. And the leadership that I teach is about knowing yourself, who you are, knowing the people that you're working with, and then having those communication skills to be able to work together to get things done. So that's what the next one will be about.
Oh, I can only imagine, because nowadays, yes, you're right. You've said imposter syndrome twice. I've been counting. And it's one of those things that was once a buzzword, but it's now really prevalent, because I blame Hollywood, Shirley. All right, I blame Hollywood for all this imposter syndrome. Hear me out a little bit, because when we're watching TV, all right, there's a linear way of being. You're born, you go to kindergarten, you get a job, you get married, you do uni, you get it, or whatever. It's the whole process, step by step. And then with the way we live these days, you know what I mean? You could actually be working from home and feel like you're not fulfilling a proper role, but you are actually the lieutenant. We're talking about making everybody else who's out there look good, right? And that whole linear way of being, I think people should just forget about it and just, like you say, focus on where you are, what it is that you're doing, and what you're bringing to the table, because that is what then makes a difference. And you can't be compared to anyone based on that. I don't know, maybe you can comment a little bit on that.
Yeah, well, I think it was on one of your podcasts or in one of your resources that I read, where you were talking about the wow factor, and particularly for coaches and consultants, the wow factor really is partly them. I mean, because that's the uniqueness, you don't want to be cloning yourself.
Yeah, what is it that you bring to the table? Wow, absolutely. Well, Shirley, I can't express my gratitude for the time that we've spent on the show today, and just getting a glimpse of your world and what it is that you are doing. Literally, I think you're giving people back to themselves.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, that's a great way to put it, because I've often struggled. My accountant used to say, Shirl, if you could only explain what you do, and I'd go,
No, look at this. You're helping them save time, that effort, energy, or whatever it is, and you're giving them back to themselves. Most of it then culminates in the actual lifestyle that people are looking for, because nobody goes into business wanting a really big job. People want that time, money, and freedom. And if you show up, and if they've been certified, they can actually have time and money and freedom in the same sentence. That's what being certified meant to me.
Yes. Well, thank you for saying so. And, and that was a phrase that my clients coined, where they were talking about somebody else who was joining a course with us. And they said, oh, they're okay because they've been Shirley-fied. So it's a particular way that we communicate. It's a particular way that we show up. It's a particular way that we do things. So thank you. I was thinking of changing that on my website, but with your marketing insights there, I think I'll quite leave it now.
Well, it is actually Shirlific, so don't even touch it.
Love it.
So much that you can do. Well, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into the world of leadership and business coaching with the incredible Shirley Dalton. I mean, my system only allows me to ask a few questions, but I would have wanted her to stay a little bit longer. But you also heard she's got a lifestyle that precedes her, yachts and everything else that comes along with it. So we only caught her in time to experience this Shirley-fic episode right here. I think this is gonna stick. I'll make it stick.
Thank you. It has been a pleasure. You're such a great interviewer.
Fantastic. I appreciate that. Now, if you're watching this and you're feeling overwhelmed or you're stuck in your business, I think it's time to get Shirley-fied, because Shirley might just be the key to unlocking your full potential. I want to thank Shirley once again for sharing her insights and expertise with us today. And if those that are watching right now, just remember, your first conversation with Shirley is complimentary and it's filled with aha moments. Is that right there, Shirley?
Well, that's the aim, yes.
Absolutely. I will put all those links to those details in the show notes so that you can get a hold of her. And don't miss out on an opportunity to actually reclaim your freedom and transform your business. Now, until next time, this has been Prosper and Shirley. I hope you have been Shirley-fied. We're signing off the Online Prosperity Show. Bye for now.